world into the past life and the glory of Atlantis. I see a spacious, domed room. The entrance on the floor is beautiful granite that seems to shine with thousands of specks of coloured light that is reflected by crystals adorned in a half circle. Crystals of different coloured quartzes of many points that beam out energies of love and light. A large crystal of quartz stands in the middle of this dome on a black pedestal that dominates the dome. These crystals energize the city. You can feel the humming of this crystal in my Atlantean life. I have much knowledge, and I was raised to be a keeper of the crystal, a priestess. As a young elder, I worked in this dome, protecting and working with the crystals. I am strong in myself. I know myself. An important part of the work that I do with the other keepers, who are also women, except one man who is the wise and spiritual elder, our protector. My hair is long and blonde. It is interwoven with gold braiding, much like in Greek times. It is piled high and flowing down my back in curls, and I have my hair done by the spiritual artists, the hair artists, who are called upon as part of our daily routine as a priestess of the temple. Part of the Atlantean psychology is the body is the temple for the soul. We must respect it. Personal hygiene and dress are of high priority. I'm wearing a white tulle long dress crossed over the front and tied at the waist with a gold leaf belt. The men are wearing both long and short skirts. Some have tops and some do not. It is part of the same white tulle material. The clothes that are worn signify our state of achievement rather than fashion. It is the state and level of our maturity and spirituality. The assorted colours worn are part of the same tulle material, but they are colours worn by people in need of healing. The colour work usually relates to a particular chakra that's out of balance, and the required colour worn will heal into effect. If the colour white is worn with associated coloured belt, they are priestesses of healing. Now, the ceremony of unity is as opposed to marriage. I do not have a husband in general. They did not have marriages in this time, just commitment series. Committing yourself to a certain person requires two people to undertake the ceremony of unity. The ceremony had no legal binding or enforcement, but the union is purely a spiritual basis of union, a commitment to the oneness. The ceremony of unity commences with a couple is bonded in commitment with a twine of soft silk-like material of gold cord that is linked and intertwined between the hands of both the male and the female. The joining of hands signify the moment of joining, and doves and other birds are released to signify freedom within the bonding, to bring peace in the bonding of the male and the female. The melding again of the beginning of creation of another life that will come from this union, the union of male and female. It is a reminding them of the beginning of this creation of the oneness being split into male and female and to create. Songs and words of love and unity are spoken to the couple. Music of love and unity are rung out into the ear, and meditation is naturally expanded into the minds of all at the ceremony. The melding of the body, mind and spirit is celebrated with food and drink after meditation. Now I go on to the connection with the dolphins. There's an extraordinary strong connection with the animals through spiritual and telepathic connections, and I would share my thoughts in meditation with my friends, and especially with the dolphins. I would go to the dolphins for counsel. They lived in a beautiful place, especially built with large canals that connected them to the rest of Atlantis. These canals extended into the lake area in which the dolphins could swim and play. During the day, they were free to come and go to the sea of their own free will. When I would go down to council, I would walk down some of the huge steps with rows of pillars on each side of these steps that lead into the water of the lake area that the dolphins were. This respectful, peaceful, special place for the priestess to go to be with the dolphins, our confidants, our advisors, intelligent, compassionate beings, and a source of balance in our society. Only the priestesses would have that connection and would have been trained as little children to understand and listen to the dolphins. I would swim with them and play with them and listen to their advice, healing those in need and speaking to us telepathically. And the dolphins' energy revitalized and energized and strengthened us. I could travel by thought. For example, if I wanted to be in a field miles away, I would shut my eyes and concentrate on that field. And there was a slight buzz, and I opened my eyes, and there I was. My favourite place was with the unicorns. They grazed in the fields like horses. Yes, they had unicorns. Like the dolphins, we communicated telepathically. However, their minds were amazingly simple in comparison. We would exchange words like, I would like a ride. And the unicorn would answer yes, and we would ride in unison with our hair, the mane and the hair flying in the wind. They were incredibly calm, serene, and dignified animals, never hurting anyone, never a bad thought or feeling, or even when challenged. I'd been told by Spirit that when the world returns to a state of balance and harmony, and man can accept and love one another, the unicorns will return. Agriculture. There were large fields of flowers and herbs in the northeast quarter of Atlantis. These fields had subtle aromas that I'd love to sit and meditate in. The smell was so gentle. The flowers are widely used and planted, for example, for beds of blue and white flowers are planted together. This is not only to be visually appealing, but also essential for the vibration effect. Highly trained and knowledgeable people tended to these fields. The herbalist took care of the flowers and the herbs right from germination of the seed to the picking and extracting the vital essence. Very few people held low-ranking positions in our working environment. No matter how mundane a job a person may have had, every person was considered vital to our society and so therefore equal in our spirituality. Respect and appreciation for another one's ability was a natural part of our integration. The fruiterers, vegetarians, and legumators also lived in the northeast quarter. Many were botanists, nutritionists, and other experts in food. They supplied the whole of our civilization. The bulk of men are designated to physical work, such as in the gardens and construction. This kept them in good physical condition. And there were few men in the spiritual capacity, as in priests and priestesses, because there again it was dependent on their spiritual growth. It was considered more beneficial for man to do the physical work. for it provided balance for them emotionally. Anger and frustration are better directed in a constructive way. Men's bodies are designed for physical work, and the genetics have proved this. As always, there were exceptions to the rule. Effeminate male or masculine female, and it was the wise ones that would direct these people to the best areas to which they would be suited and they would excel. It was essential that people were fulfilled with their spiritual path and roles to which they can accomplish. The whole life of Atlantis and there were an unseen harmonious integration of all kingdoms. The plant, minerals, animal and vegetable. And everyone played a part, and everyone knew that his or her contribution was essential for the overall running of our civilization. There was no money system on Atlantis, just trading. We did not carry purses or keys or anything of that nature. There was little greed and or jealousy, only the power of the mind. Spacecrafts, we had aircraft not unlike flying saucers. They would take off and land in circular motion in conjunction with the air currents generated by the magnetic field energy. These vehicles were generally used for longer journeys. The shorter journeys, or for one or two people, had a scooter form of machine, which held one or two people for short journeys. It was like based on a magnetic field energy, and it was like a hovercraft, which just sort of hovered above the ground. Commodities such as food and household goods or any large objects were actually transported in the same way as by large vehicles known as subbers, and that's SUB-BERS. Atlantis is a huge civilization, so we used ships of communication that brought news from all areas. Specific wise ones received a lot of this information telepathically. They had special receiving powers, not unlike a satellite receiving station. They were exactly accurate, and their job was simply to sit and receive information from other quarters, or receive and also give out. The large crystal that I work with was also utilised as a means for this way of communicating throughout the civilization. Healing. There was no serious healing in this civilization. The healing methods used encompass many of the healing methods we use separately today. Crystals, colour therapy, music, aromas, herbs were all combined to create a complete healing method. The healing centre was a place of many rooms. As you entered through the door, a colour registered on the wall that was directly with your energy field. So you were directed to the particular room for selective healing that was picked up. In this first room, highly trained assistants with extensive knowledge in many areas of healing would pick up the vibrations of your body. They would then translate that information into the healing room, and in this room you would lie down on a slab of granite while other assistants would arrange the appropriate formulas to be used for your healing. The room filled with healing music, and the appropriate crystals were placed above you and around you. An aroma lightly scented the room, and the colour would come in last. You were asked to meditate and allow the healing energy to enter. It was important that all the senses were healed. Your eyes with the colour, your nose with the aroma, your ears with the beautiful music, and lastly your mouth with pure water that you had to drink after you rose from meditation. The energy was extraordinarily strong. It felt like a ray up and down your body, and every sense was fulfilled. The healing techniques also incorporated the magnetic and ethereal fields, as well as the physical and mental realms. The children. The baby in the womb is given sounds of voice, music, and spiritual teachings of our time. This was a basic instruction for expecting parents who were helped and guided by the wise ones throughout the pregnancy. From the time of birth, the baby was nurtured and loved by their parents in their own home, and then they were brought to the nurseries during the light hours to listen to music, to the vibrations of colour and stories of positive thoughts and philosophies. All areas of nurturing centres for children to teach them and how to be spiritual beings, to open their minds and allow their bodies to work as one. The wise ones played a strong part in this development, and through their cooperation was considered one of the highest positions in our Atlantean society. This station was designated when you reached an age between 60 and 120, depending on your spiritual growth, and it was something to aspire to. In this station of these wise ones were designated when you reached the age of 160 to 120, depending on your spiritual growth. This was something to aspire to. So the wise ones became wise ones through years and years of experience. Teaching of the knowledge. From the age of 3, people were taught in all areas of learning. Learning is taught in large buildings. There are no signs to say this. The schools were known by the colour rainbow that was painted on the front of the building. This was effectively a sign to say learning centre. The children listened to audio-visual by lying or sitting in comfortable positions so that their spine is not placed under any pressure. Another method involved meditation, where the eyes are covered with an eye mask with which colours were projected. This visual method of teaching was amazingly effective, and when in a meditative state, subliminal tapes were also played through earphones. With a relaxed body and mind, the knowledge passes directly to the recording part of the brain. This is one of the most effective methods of learning, as it eliminated all distractions. The wise ones watched over and assessed progress, and guided the children to see their talents and how their talents would emerge and where their talents were. This was to ensure that everyone had an equal chance of aspiring to their full potential of their higher selves. Positive thoughts and vibrations are an important part of this learning. This enabled the soul to reach the highest potential, the highest vibration of the body, mind, and the highest vibration of the soul. The more your inner mind is positive, and the more it reflects your outer mind of your conscious being, when the two are in tune, this brings a positive world. Those that have not kept to this have fallen to greed and power, or to the lower side of their natures. The mind of others was a barbaric way of life to the Atlantean, which was forbidden. In our history books it was said that we were once insecure. The barbaric quantities or qualities of our forebears still genetically affected our society at this time, choosing to experiment with animals, choosing to interfere with the weather. However, the spiritual laws on interfering with another's life is forbidden in that time. Even though we knew the dangers that this held, we could not interfere or enforce punishment because it was everyone's responsibility for the progress of their own soul. In this society, it was the purpose of the insecurity to become secure. This philosophy was good and stood alone in its time. It was our protection. Now we go on to the vortex points, Bermuda Triangle being one of them. And it is associated with the island of Bimini. This was once a great city and was scattered in the great earthquakes as the land shifted. A great temple fell under the sea, and its energy point is still felt, for the crystals still hold the energy there. It needs balance again, and why so many strange things happen in this occur at that point. Partly because some of the crystals were removed from the vortex point and need replacing back on that grid line or ley line. Now we talk about the Sphinx and the crystal skull connection. Beneath the Sphinx is a temple which held all the crystal skulls. These crystal skulls hold all the knowledge that has been gathered over the globe from that great civilization since the ancients came to this earth and placed the crystals there in that time. A crude form of crystal skull in the form of computer, but a very crude form of storing information from the way the crystal skulls store the information. For computers do not store records of all the four bodies, the emotional, spiritual, mental and physical. The skulls stored all that information, whereas a computer only stores one-dimensional and tries to explain it through all the senses. The information that was brought forth for this book is in direct connection with some of the crystal skulls. Atlanteans had all the crystal skulls in their civilization and were scattered throughout the world. For scattering again in this time, the last days when Earth and Atlantis fell, many had already travelled from those lands to safety. The pyramids, they were part of the secrets of the pyramids that hold the past of civilizations of other species of people who ruled. The proof that the Syrians are tall, large, elongated heads as being shown in the tombs of the pharaohs when the mummies were unwrapped. The Syrians do not take kindly to their tombs being desecrated, as it is sacred to them. Disturbing the tombs is releasing the energy of the beings that are waiting to either be released back to Sirius or born again in this world. The cloning of a cell can rebuild the being. The Anunnaki would love to get hold of the bodies and use them to their advantage to keep them in control. There are others who would try to do this, and the Syrians who want to raise their beings up again. One thing that cannot be changed is the recognition of the heart in which we come from. The heart of all untruths are revealed. Therefore Christ came to save the combination of species, to bring back balance and making people aware of their heart, to honour the contract made between the Pleiadians and Syrians. The planetary shifts. There were conjunction with the planetary shifts in those times and placed in their new location. We are now going through that phase. There are a few points on the grid, like New Zealand being another one of spiritual wealth. Sedona, also Taupo in New Zealand. There are major lines in the times of Lemuria. These major grid lines heal the past of Lemuria and Atlantis. The points are referred to the north and the North Island of Spirits Bay. An ancient pyramid stands ready to be rediscovered in this area. Tiano area, which is down in the South Island, another important part to play in our grid lines. There is a wealth of pure spring water to replenish the thirst of many. In Atlantis, the skulls were in the temples in a round circle, and they were placed in Egypt as a time for rebalancing of the grid lines and to change those grid lines. Part of that grid pattern is changing and has to do with placing the skulls in the newer form, in the newer grid situation. In Egypt, which is relinquishing her role of being the major point of entry and major beacon, we will change that to another entry point. When Egypt hands over her role as the crystal skulls will be placed in the temple under the Sphinx, we are able then to have a location and the shift will occur. This is also in alignment with all, you see, the solar flares and everything that all Earth is going through at this particular time. So this all is in conjunction with that. The skulls will be moved to the new location. And then after all these shifts, as we go through the photon belt, then they will be put back into place and will bring new information and data from many points of the globe. And this is the time that in our shift that we, through our four bodies, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, you can see the connection with the information held in the crystal skulls. All four bodies are recorded in the skulls, and they will record our information from our four bodies into the coding of the skulls. This is how it is to connect to the energies to help us change to a higher vibration, because in those in turn will be going to um, the information will be going on into the universe. The temples in Egypt that have causeways underneath are located between the Sphinx and the main temples of pyramids in Giza. The location of all the buildings will be made clear as we move through this next phase, as all meet underneath the temple where the skulls have been placed. So this is also to be done in the right time. Those people that have been chosen to be caretakers of the skulls have been moving skulls all over the world and have been placed on certain vortex points and will be moved again to be placed in the 12 when the time is right, when Earth is in balance and when we have gone through the shifts of the photon belt. So but they're gathering information around their vortex places and then converge into a circle again and relay the same information to the main skull. The information will be then relinquished and a new process will begin. The skulls will go on to their new locations and vortexes. We have had many shifts in the last many years, and the caretakers of these skulls, it has been easy for them, for they tell them where to go, but mainly because of the need to balance the energies again all over the Earth. Will also help the Earth physically as we're moving that 5 degrees. Sometimes doing extra work as another moved out of location, unbalancing and a particular vortex. So another person will come and move the crystal skull to correct that. So this is happening also in our four bodies, so mentally and connecting with the main skull and connecting through meditation. There are special people that have been doing this for years. It's also giving information to those beings or spiritual beings that is part of their mission to remember certain things at certain times and remember to be part of the whole. And as we dance to the tune of the universe. We're all a particular place and time to realign, both within ourselves and with the energy of the planet. It is part of our mission as light beings on this earth that we have come to accomplish. We have felt choice as human beings, and in that we oversee our own progress. We can attain perfection in part of our bodies. Part of our soul's purpose in the soul being is that it is a mission to accomplish. This is placed of importance. It is revealed that this mission will be fulfilled. The rest of as a being on this dense and third dimensional planet is still of choice. Realize that we belong to the whole and we're all part of we are. Our mission always is for ascension of all beings on this planet, to move forward in their ascension and the ascension of this planet. The day that Atlantis fell, at the time in my life, the world of Atlantis as we knew it was the end of its era. Some of us knew this, but most of us chose to ignore it or were not interested. The physical elements had become out of balance and technology was very advanced. For example, the air was purified and the temperature was regulated by technology. And it was so advanced that we'd begun to change the elements of the air and the water. This was what eventually caused the eruption of Atlantis. The four elements, air, water, fire, and earth, are the most basic and stable foundations of our planet. Any attempt to combine or change any of these elements is against divine law. Those of the scientific fields that lived and worked in the west quarter of Atlantis conceded to their lower side of themselves and considered control over the elements as power and glory. This we know as was the ultimate downfall. They considered themselves above man and attempted to play God by trying to control the basic elements of this earth. The prophecies of the last days were widely known. However, the wise ones and those that followed strict spiritual paths only knew its cause. The end of our civilization was caused by a few of the powerful people. It was said that the prophecies that earth shall rise and gather its people, and a new land shall rise again, to begin again the great struggle. Few people will survive, and they may be scattered among this new land to tell tales of Atlantis, so that we learn from our mistakes. The dolphins had told us that the last day was approaching, and we knew that this time was getting closer, as we had not seen them for at least 2 weeks. They had told us that they're going to a safe place and that they would look after the crystals until the time was right for them to be found again. They told us that we could safely travel to the east. Many people left in search of these new lands. Some travelled to Egypt, others in boats spent months and months travelling before the last day and safely arriving on new and uncharted lands. These other lands were not part of our civilization and therefore not under our protection. Many people were stressed to leave the positive and secure environment. Atlantis had few explorers because of this. However, the few that had travelled to the strange lands had returned safely. This gave us at least some secure knowledge of the life and countries that existed beyond Atlantis. I chose to stay to make sure that the energy crystal remained intact until the end. This was the crystal that powered the cities. A transparent bubble of unknown material protected it in the last few weeks. One day it will be recovered and used again for a good purpose. When it is discovered, it will prove the existence of the Atlantean civilization and shed light on many other mysteries that have haunted us for centuries. I remember the longest day, the last day, and the last minute. The earth folded. There were earthquakes, eruptions, fire. There were an enormous amount of Earth's plate. Astrologers can check through this lineup. There was a shift, a huge shift, and Earth gave way. The attitude of the people in the crystal dome were one of acceptance. We were calm. The shifting of the building seemed to move up and down, and it tipped and peaked. A man pulled me onto the ledge. We held on to each other. I hoped my death would be quick. The sky had gone smoky, and I could see the earth erupting and the fire spouting into the atmosphere. Smoke filled the dome, choking both of us, and I blacked out. And the next thing I knew, I was floating in bliss up to the light and looked down to see the sinking of this land. The water poured in and consumed everything in sight. Some people ran, only to be engulfed by water or fall into the fiery holes in the earth. The screams are stood with me still. The bubbling of the earth was like a giant pot of boiling water, the earth being engulfed by the sea like a hungry animal devouring its prey. I was then lifted what I thought was the next world, but I was actually on a spacecraft. So us and all our fellow priestesses and priestesses of the dome or in the temple were actually saved and taken to another planet. I'll now give you a connection with Avalon and the stone circles. The stone circles were known as Stonehenge, or others that are scattered through England and Europe were used in Atlantis. The Celtics used the same circle of stones. Avalon was known as an Atlantean temple, which was known as the female temple of Allura. It was one of the temples set aside for the education of the priestess. These young women were taken to this location away from society to be trained as priestesses in various temples throughout the Atlantean world. These temples remained intact for many centuries because of their secret location and because they were protected by an invisible force field. And actually, that's why that one survived. The circular stones were placed in a initiation and of calling into the collective element of the four parts which we make up as the earth, wind, fire, and water. The centre of these stones were dedicated to the oneness spirit. Many spirit rituals were held and performed as a means of connecting and learning to connect. The circle provided a strong energy source to confine and allow the spirits to be confined. These were always placed over a vortex point on a major point of the grid lines of the earth. This allowed the priestesses to feel their full power so that they can contain that force and energy within themselves and allow themselves to work with them after they left their training. It's also connected with them to the earth and the stars and other star beings and everything in the universe. Once in the closed dome of the temple, the light of your soul will expand and energize with the elements and move as one through your body, down your crown chakra, through your body, then into your arms, where it is expanded outwards to the energy again. The body then becomes part of the energy, this powerful connection to bring clarity and connection to all there is. I still remain and do this every night. I bring the energy through my crown chakra into my body and then allow it to permeate. So it is healing and it is connecting with all that and balancing all your four bodies. The stones that were in Avalon are placed into equal points and then connected to the top of the dome with a crystal that is used as an amplifier, or capstone as some people call it, and are connected to the stars. It is like a beacon and a transmitter and a receiver all in one. The energy brings the light through the body and connects with all bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and then comes back out into the universe again. This energy is then used for many ceremonies, sending out healing to the earth, connecting to other temples, receiving knowledge from other parts of the world and from star beings. The specific one for healing the earth is to send the energy through the grid lines to all points of the lines throughout the world. The sacred circle is also used for protection and for vision. In later times, the Native American Indians used the knowledge of these times to create a sacred circle for their vision quests. This circle is used for many and for solace and connection with oneself or by oneself. The four elements were honoured by placing them on the four corners on a pedestal that held a sacred bowl around in its visible force field to hold the energy pure. The priestess would honour all the elements by walking around the circle and then finally seating themselves in the centre, and then the vision would begin. From the ceremony, the high priestess would place herself in the centre, and all priestesses would walk the four elements. The high priestess would walk to the centre, and all the others would place themselves outside the circle and emanate the energy to the centre. The ceremony would begin with the high priestess speaking and honouring and setting the intention. So this is also, when you look at the Native American Indians, they actually do the same thing. So you want to look into the Native American Indian and their medicine wheel and the way they do vision quests, because it all comes way back from the times of Atlantis. Thank you very much for this reading, and thank you very much for listening. Hello everyone, I'd just like to introduce myself. I've been doing this work, I'm a psychic medium, been doing this work for approximately 45 years. I have my own client base and I do readings from home and email readings and energy readings if you want to go to my website. I'd like to explain, I work with two guides, although there's 5 of them, but at the moment there's White Cloud on the left and D'Artagnan on the right. And down below you will see that I promote the universal laws and I talk about them as well. That's in one of my videos.